Welcome everyone for today's stream. My name is Ashwin. I am studying Masters in Physics in Heidelberg. Now, this is the first time I'm streaming live to Twitch, and so there are certain things I would like to share with you. So, I am looking forward to streaming every week around the same time as now, and every week I wish to discuss on some topic like a reflection, then do something technical, maybe related to IT or physics or mathematics, whatever it may be, and end the stream so that it is both educational and entertaining. Uh, so I decided to stream because I do different stuff every week, but most of them, even though they're interesting, go unrecorded, and I forget to share it with others. So I hope this is a solution to the problem of going unrecorded, and I will also be sharing the recording of the stream in YouTube. You can always check it out later. So let's get right into it. So today, as a first topic, the reflections part, I would like to discuss about mm, the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. Not the series as a whole. Uh, it's a small section of it I would like to read, then discuss its implications in today's world. I would like to review the series probably next week because I am in the last seventh book. I am reading. I am through 70%, and by next week I should be done with the series, so I can review it both in terms of the books and in terms of the web series that's currently going on in Apple TV. So today I want to discuss about the nature of faith in a scientific community, scientific setting. How does faith play a role in scientific interests? So before we get into it, for those of you who don't know about the Foundation series, so the Foundation series is a series of novels, 7 novels, uh, of the genre of science fiction. So to reach genre of science fiction, then this is about future of the humanity after maybe 20 million years or so, wherein the humanity is spread throughout the galaxy, living in all the different planets which are suitable for habitation. Basically, the humans occupy different worlds in the universe, and they have interspatial travel, faster than light travel, and stuff like that. So science fiction for a reason. So but what happens there is an imperial system, a king who rules over this galaxy, who maintains the peace of the galaxy, and turns out his rule is declining. It's descending to anarchy. So currently, I really don't know why Asimov chose to have an imperial kingdom rather than a democratic rule when it comes to a galactic um, lifestyle, let's say. But yeah, so that is something I cannot fathom right away. But the fact is, there is an imperial system that is declining. So there is this mathematician called Harry Seldon. Seldon. This guy invents a mathematical system called psychohistory. So what the psychohistory does is it's a statistical methods used to predict predict the future, so to speak. So it can't predict the future of an individual. That means an individual doesn't have a free will, but this predicts the future of a civilization, a society, a huge number of people in anything involving huge number of people. And it is the books also reference kinetic theory of gases by uh, Boltzmann. Boltzmann, I think. I don't know. So it's kinetic theory of gases, and it is said Harry Seldon is inspired by kinetic theory of gases to develop the psychohistory. Of course, it's a big struggle. He develops it, and he sets up two different foundations. First foundation in the periphery of the galaxy, and the second foundation at the middle of the galaxy, in the planet called Trantor. In fact, Trantor is the planet which is the center of Imperial Kingdom. So he sets this up, two different things to uh, save humanity from getting into anarchy and barbarianism. So he predicts, if done nothing, the galaxy is going into anarchy, and that will last for 30,000, 300,000 years, probably. I don't know, 30,000, 300,000, some three number. So that is a problem, right? So in that case, so he does an alternative analysis and sees that setting up two different foundations at two different places will reduce the time period of anarchism by 1,000 years instead of 30,000 years, which is a good deal. So he sets up one in the periphery of the universe, one in the center. Although the center one is not revealed until the third book, I suppose. It's kept a big secret. Nobody knows where the second foundation exists, for a reason. Because psychohistory has two axioms, or two suppositions, let's say. One is it only works on a huge number of masses, meaning a society, a planet, or a group of planets, their social systems. And the second thing is, people should not uh, know the predictions of psychohistory for their particular group of people in order to work. If they knew, then the actions of every individual will be skewed uh, in the direction such that it's like a loop feedback effect. People know psychohistory has predicted an output A. That means people will tend to make choices towards output A, and vice versa. But that will work for short term, but in a long term, it may break psychohistory and people will lose faith in it. So it is essential that people who are involved in prediction, who are utilized in prediction, need not know the predictions of psychohistory. So that is the reason why second foundation is kept a secret, because second foundation deals with psychohistory. First foundation has no psychohistory historians, so to speak. So this is the background, and currently I want to read an excerpt from the fifth book, where between a councilman of the first foundation and uh, mythology and historical researcher, professor of the foundation, who are on travels to discover Earth. As it so happens, in this foundation series, people lose track of where the Earth, or the concept that humans evolved in one single planet. So it's pretty far in the future. So in their journey to find Earth, you see this discussion between two characters. Golan Travis is the councilman of the foundation. He's also trained in some physics and some other topics. And there is another personality called Yano Perolat. So this guy is the historian, mythologist, and so on. So let's go through this excerpt. Then let's see how it deals with today's scientific world. So let me read through it quickly and then we'll discuss further. So, even if we don't become part of Galaxia, we would still have psychohistory to guide us. This is said by Golan Travis. No, this is said by Perolat. Travis turned in his chair, releasing his handhold on the computer. Let it work out distances, he said, and let it check the matter a number of times. There's no hurry. He looked quizzically at Perolat and said, Psychohistory, you know, Jano, twice that subject came up on Compor alone, and twice it was described as a superstition. I said so once, and then Denayader said it also. After all, how can you define psychohistory but as a superstition of the Foundation? Isn't it a belief without proof or evidence? What do you think, Yano? It's more your field than mine, Belorat said. Why do you say there's no evidence, Golan? The simulacrum of Harry Seldon has appeared in the time vault many times and has discussed events as they happen. He could not have known what those events would be in his time had he not been able to predict them psychohistorically. That sounds impressive. Travis nodded. That sounds impressive. He was wrong about the mule, but even allowing for that, it is impressive. Still, it has an uncomfortable magical feel to it. Any conjurer can do tricks. No conjurer could predict centuries into the future. No conjurer could really do what he makes you think he does. Come, Golan, I can't think of any trick that would allow me to predict what will happen 5 centuries from now. Nor can you think of a trick that will allow a conjurer to read the contents of a message hidden in a pseudo tesseract on an unmanned orbiting satellite. Just the same, I have seen a conjurer do it. Has it ever occurred to you that the time capsule, along with Harry Seldon's simulacrum, may be rigged by the government? Pelorat looked as though he were revolted by the suggestion. They wouldn't do that. Travis made a scornful sound. Pelorat said, and they'd be caught if they tried. I am not at all sure of that. The point is, though, that we don't know how psychohistory works at all. I don't know how that computer works, but I know it works. That's because others know how it works. How would it be if no one knew how it worked? Then, if it stopped working for any reason, we would be helpless to do anything about it. And if psychohistory suddenly stopped working, the second foundationers know the workings of psychohistory. How do you know that, Yano? So it is said, anything can be said. Ah, we have the distance of the Forbidden World star, and I hope very accurately. Let's consider the figures. He stared at them for a long time, his lips moving occasionally as though he were doing some rough calculations in his head. Finally, he said without lifting his eyes, "What's Bliss doing?" "Sleeping, old chap," said Pelorat. Then defensively, "She needs sleep, Golan. Maintaining herself as part of Gaia across hyperspace is energy consuming." "I suppose so," said Travis and turned back to the computer. He placed his hands on the desk and muttered, "I'll get it go in several jumps and have it recheck each time." Then he withdrew them again and said, "I am serious, Yana. What do you know about psychohistory?" Pelorat looked taken aback. "Nothing. Being a historian, which I am after a fashion, is worlds different from being a psychohistorian. Of course, I know the two fundamental basics of psychohistory, but everyone knows that. Even I do. The first requirement is that the number of human beings involved must be large enough to make statistical treatment valid. But how large is large? How large is large enough?" said Pelorat said. "The latest estimate of the galactic population is something like 10 quadrillion, and that's probably an underestimate. Surely that's large enough." "How do you know?" "Because psychohistory does work, Conan. No matter how you chop logic, it does work. And the second requirement," said Travis, "is that human beings not be aware of psychohistory so that the knowledge does not skew their reactions. But they are aware of psychohistory only of its bare existence, old chap. That's not what counts. The second requirement is that human beings not be aware of the predictions of psychohistory and that they are not except that the second foundationers are supposed to be aware of them, but they are a special case. And upon these two requirements alone, the science of psychohistory has been developed." "That's hard to believe." "Not out of those two requirements alone," said Pelorat. "There are advanced mathematics and elaborate statistical methods. The story is, if you want tradition, that Harry Seldon devised psychohistory by modeling it upon the kinetic theory of gases. Each atom or molecule in a gas moves randomly so that we can't know the position or velocity of any one of them. Nevertheless, using statistics, we can work out the rules governing their overall behavior with great precision. In the same way, Selden intended to work out the overall behavior of human societies, even though the solutions would not apply to the behavior of individual human beings. Perhaps human beings aren't atoms." "True," said Pelorat. "A human being has consciousness, and his behavior is sufficiently complicated to make it appear to be free will. How Selden handled that, I haven't any idea, and I'm sure I couldn't understand it even if someone who knew tried to explain it to me, but he did it," Travis said, "and the whole thing depends on dealing with people who are both numerous and unaware. Doesn't that seem to you a quick shandish foundation on which to build an enormous mathematical structure? If those requirements are not truly met, then everything collapses. But since the plan hasn't collapsed, or if the requirements are not exactly false or inadequate but simply weaker than they should be, psychohistory might work adequately for centuries and then, upon reaching some particular crisis, would collapse, as it did temporarily in the time of the mule. Or what if there is a third requirement? What third requirement? asked Bellorette, frowning slightly. I don't know, said Travis. An argument may seem thoroughly logical and elegant, and yet contain unexpressed assumptions. Maybe the third requirement is an assumption so taken for granted that no one ever thinks of mentioning it. An assumption that is so taken for granted is usually valid enough, or it wouldn't be so taken for granted. Travis nodded. If you knew scientific history as well as you know traditional history, Jano, you would know how wrong that is. But I see that we are now in the neighborhood of the sun of the forbidden world, and indeed, centered on the screen was a bright star, one so bright that the screen automatically filtered its light to the point where all other stars were washed out. Okay, so that's a very interesting paragraph. Here we can see that psychohistory, like I explained, is utilized as a propaganda in the first foundation because nobody knows that it exists other than the reassurances of Harry Seldon's simulacrum or a hologram in our terms. Nobody knows how it works. Nobody knows is it true. Nobody knows uh, what will happen next. So there is an analogy in this discussion with the computer. So the historian says, I don't know how the computer works, but I know it does. How does the historian know computer works fine? Because he sees the other guy, the councilman, utilizing it and achieving the results he wants to achieve. So he sees the results of the computer that the computer delivers, and he believes the computer will work fine. But there is a question there. If there is nobody who knows how to utilize it, people just know it works fine, and someday it doesn't, it stops working. What do we do? So when you apply the same reasoning to psychohistory, you can think about the same. Today, psychohistory might work in the universe of Isaac Asimov. That is, so psychohistory might work, and let's say it breaks down sometime. But if there is nobody to know that it is broken down or nobody to know how it works, how can somebody fix it, right? So that is something very serious. But you see how faith works in the in the field of science. The historian has faith that the computer works. The whole scientific community in First Foundation has faith that psychohistory works. They know, even though psychohistory is a rational, mathematical treatment of prediction of the outcomes of a society, it is still a faith for First Foundationers. For Second Foundationers who deal with psychohistory primarily, it is not a faith; it's a scientific advancement for them. So we can think about the same in the real world. In the real world, you see, I am trying to become a physicist. I am doing masters, but if you ask me anything about the human brain, the electromagnetic waves, I have faith that the neuroscientists are doing their best to understand how it works. I have heard about the alpha waves, beta waves, delta waves, and so on. That those electromagnetic waves that goes on around the brain. I never really tested it. I never really looked into it. I never measured it. I am just repeating the words of another scientist who has done. So it is my faith in him that I am sharing this information with you that this is true, although I have never tested it. It is rational, it is logical, it is a empirical fact that these waves exist. Even if it is an empirical fact, it is the matter of faith that works in the in me, that makes me believe that it is true. Correct. So faith has a very important role in scientific community. Now let's say let me tell you something. There are many varieties of black hole solutions to Einstein's field equations. So there is a solution called Schwarzschild solution. There is a solution called Kerr's solution. There is another solution called Rinsler Nordstrom solution, I guess. So these different solutions describe different black holes. But if I say the Schwarzschild black hole is a sun which is sufficiently compressed in a small volume, it doesn't spin, it doesn't have electric charges, it is a neutral mass of body. And for a particular mass of that sun or a star, if you are in the vicinity of certain kilometers away from the star, there is no turning back. So this is something I say to you. You trust me because I am doing my master's in physics. I am studying these subjects, and you sort of trust me to say the right thing, right? If you have the technicalities, you can check it yourself that what I say is true. But if you don't have, your only option is faith. You put a faith in me, thinking that okay, this guy knows what he talks about, right? So this is so even though science is all about rationality and logical reasoning, most of the time it is governed by faith. You can't escape faith in this world, whether it be religion, whether it be philosophy, whether it be science. Faith makes a lot of contribution to the distribution of knowledge. Let's